Gentlemen, such a pleasure to have you on here. Jeff, have had so much fun getting to know you and working with you over the last about year, I think. And so much fun to have you on to explore a little bit more about your work with kids and also some of the insights that you have in terms of education for kids and how we can do a better job of getting the right information and the right tools to these guys as they're navigating this really rapidly changing world.
Fantastic to be here with you, Andrew, and certainly nice to meet you, Kai. And I love the work that you're doing, just kind of branching out and doing some really innovative topics through some innovative mediums. So it's fun to watch. I'm kind of riding along as a passenger. As I watch you, Andrew, push the boundaries of some new mediums and content. So congrats on that. I'm glad to be part of it.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you. And I love the powerful work that you do and your organization does. And I was wondering if you could just start off and take a few minutes talking about the work that you do specifically with kids and maybe some of the impact that you've seen, as kids learn how to incorporate some of your techniques.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, as we know, it's a very busy, stressful world, and kids grow up in that world. And there's a lot of pressures and influences, go here, go there. I'm not even getting into social media, which is a whole topic in and of itself. And Kai, you know what I'm talking about. So to actually give tools, strategies for kids, youth, to kind of not shut down that noise or turn it off, which is almost impossible to do unless you're a Zen master who's been meditating in a cave for 40 years or just wired that way. That's a very unusual skill set because we need our brain. We need to problem solve, interpret, and all that. But to find some balance in that, to kind of quiet it down a little bit. And I'm reminded of the Sioux Indian saying years ago, the longest journey in life is 18 inches from your brain to your heart. And that's a path of discovery because we're listening to this guy a lot, and it has its brilliance and its skills, but it does so much better if it's shaped by the influence of the heart or who you are as a human being and the depth of who you are. What's in your heart? What's your character? And that's an unfolding process for all of it. But I wish, so we teach skill sets and we have biofeedback technologies that teach us kids how to do that in their very busy school days or even at home with their parents to kind of just lower stress, boost resilience, and be a little clearer in their decision making, especially around relationships, and to handle pressure because there's so much pressure these days. So we're pretty good at that, and we're at a pretty large scale now. We work with thousands of schools and students, and I don't do it directly so much, although I have a couple really fun projects I got going on with some teens right now that I may or may not be able to talk about that. But we work more with the adults who work with kids on a fairly large scale. We have some student mental health initiatives around the country where we get grant funds to schools. We're going to try to do another research project with the University of Chicago for ninth graders who have in their health education classes using one of our programs called Smart Brain Wise Heart, Smart Brain Wise Heart. And just a lot of different initiatives, a lot of collaborations we're doing. We're doing one right now with brain health for veterans. Because veterans, especially who have been in war, they have PTSD and some real difficult issues, and that's a real hard one. So we got just a lot of stuff going on at any one time, and it just keeps my excitement going because I get to meet people like yourselves. I get to talk to other interesting people with interesting perspectives and ideas as the world turns, and to really do a lot of service work and helping people.
Wow. Well, Jeff, thanks for that work. I just look at the statistics of mental health issues for kids, suicide for kids, and it's just heartbreaking. And I've always suspected that it's a connection problem, that kids feel disconnected. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on that and what you see as you work with kids on reconnecting to themselves.
Yeah, and I think you really got to the heart of it there, Andrew, because kids feel more connected with their devices than they do with people. I'm saying the obvious there. And they feel maybe a little bit regimented in their life because they're scheduled out. There's a lot of extracurricular stuff and do this, do that. So if they're so busy and the life is so noisy that have quiet time is really difficult. In fact, it's uncomfortable for some youth because they like that energy, that frenzied energy. Go, 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 go. And they stay there, or it can't stay there. And so it's really hard to kind of shift in a gradual way to that quietude. So I think they maybe feel alienated and a little discouraged from the world they're growing up in. And it's kind of the trickle-down effect of what's happening in the adult world. And you could pick any number of the 10 issues facing us, and it kind of trickles down into the brains. They watch their parents, or they watch adults who are out of balance as well. And friendships can be toxic, especially on social media, because it's all about likes and dislikes, and so it's rough. It's different growing up because there isn't the larger face-to-face community or the extended family, which was almost like a cliche now. That was generations ago, but they need that element. And I think that's why they strive to go to social media, is to get some form of connectivity, but then you can get ambushed really quickly if you say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing. So it's hard to navigate with the busyness of the world, the complexity of the world, and the lack of connection, as you said. And that's why we really preach trying to connect to your heart. And if you look at the heart, the definition of a heart, the first definition in the Webster's Dictionary is your pump that pumps blood. Definition number 2 is the center of who you are. It's not up here, it's down here, but how do you get there? How do you navigate there? And that's where, if you have some adults or even some peers that can mentor you, to guide you, to kind of straighten you out, to say yes when you're feeling discouraged, or say no when you're making a stupid decision or a poor decision. So that kind of, those guides, we need those along the way in order to give us advice, much like you're giving us a forum here, Andrew, for Kai to share. And one other pet project that I have looming, it actually speaks to kind of some of the themes you're addressing, is I'm looking at doing something as teens as agents of change. Because what I'm finding in this world of youth is they see what's going on, they connect the dots and go, this isn't looking so good right now. And they want to take action. So there's a lot of teens, even preteens, even upper elementary kids, who are wanting to make a difference in their own way, whether it's local or national. And there's some remarkable stories emerging. And I've had the privilege of meeting some teens that are doing remarkable things, independent of HeartMath. Just it came from within this wellspring of inspiration, of dedication, of movement in the face of difficulty. And those are tomorrow's leaders. And that's a real joy I have, meeting people like Kai and some of the other people I've met. There's remarkable achievements going on.
Oh, so great, Jeff. Well, I would love to hear it from the horse's mouth here, because we have an actual kid in Kai. I mean, how does what Jeff says resonate with you in terms of the challenges and how we can address those?
Well, I haven't had much firsthand experience of others as in action, but what I will say is that many people feel that the younger generation doesn't have knowledge because their brains aren't developed enough, they don't have enough experience of life, or and a lot of people, you could say what you want about this, but some advice from teenagers is good advice, and some advice from teenagers can be questionable. That's what I will say, because we have clouded minds, judgment minds. We want to go hang out with our friends. We want to go to a movie with a person. We want to just live life socially, and we need to find balance, and we need to find balance within all of that, and just to bring up, like, some people get stressed about homework, some people have mental issues that don't let them do homework, some people have life that's just too busy, or parents that are too busy that drag them around everywhere, and just they don't have time to keep a balanced life. And so that's why when I was in Andrew's Coherence for Kids class, I think the co-teacher Jenna shared the quick coherence technique, and that was a game changer. That it's quick coherence technique is something of HeartMath, I'm pretty sure, and it was really eye-opening, but at the same time, overuse of anything, like if let's say you eat too much of the same food every day, it starts to get boring. So you need renewal. You need new practices. You need new balance. And so I really think that what he did say is accurate, but it can't, when you find one solution, it could always work. But at the same time, there are so many other people who need new changes in their life. Change is what makes flow. And if you, and like me and Andrew were talking about on our little talk before this podcast, flow is very important. It keeps you organized, but at the same time, it keeps you open. And openness to a bunch of things, not being accommodating to social norms, I could talk more about me, but I'm going to talk more about the general right now. And I feel as if that we have too much pressure on social norms. And yes, some things are wrong, some things are nice, but just don't over exaggerate on them. That's what's been happening. Okay, so I would prefer to not mention this, but it has come up. So it is there's something that I like to call a lot of people call brain rot. Society calls brain rot, and it's just like science has shown, and even speech that how you're talking shows evidence of brain rot, because I'm saying like a lot, and that happens because I've been too focused on my screens, and like and etc. are filler words, are words that fill up because you can't process all that's going on in your head and pulling it out of your mouth. So that balance and coherence technique is one way to, I'm getting off track here, but it's one way to bring all of your thoughts, quiet the rest, and just focus on one and bring that out. So an example is there's this half of my class who is all about like being so-called normal or societally acceptable. And then there's the kids who just exist, who actually want to do school, who want to everything is now based on like stereotypes, and that is what annoys me. There's like the stereotype of the cool kids, of the people who care too much about their appearance, of the people who are sporty. Like, this has been going on for a long time, not just in this generation, but it's been going on since the beginning of time if you look at it. And just to like the labels and all the societal norms and stereotypes that are coming up, like the memes or that are fed through social media, are just brain rotting, and they just, it's very difficult to pull all of this together, is what I'll say. It's because there's examples of this, but then there's also what actually is, and I'm trying to merge those two together. And yeah, so let's say there's this boy at one school with a bunch of his friends, and obviously this boy is me. Uh, and he's just like, or he's rooting for more, or he's rooting for a writing assignment instead of drawing a map for homework. And the rest of the boys, or his friends don't like the writing, and then so they just all boo you, and then it's just they take things to extremes too easily, and that is one issue. And it's just the tech and everything is what my mother would call brainwashing, but sort of not brainwashing, more just like, here, we give this to you, and then these other kids who we think should it's like the people who control social media are the people who control who becomes smart and who becomes dumb, basically. It is, since kids spend so much time on social media, actually, there's been a study shown over 75% of the time you are on social media, you are just sitting there and taking in useless information. It might be random facts. Random facts might be cool. They might be fun, but are they actually helping you get through, like, are they actually helping you get through school? And then the rest of that time is usually something about, like, of course you're learning, no matter what you're doing, you're learning and intaking something. So at 75% you're still learning something, but you're learning something that is not what is really beneficial for you.
Well, I really, really appreciate your perspective on that, and it's fascinating how, as you describe these, I flash back to all the kids who would watch TV for 4 or 6 hours a day, and they called that the equivalent of brain rot as well. And I think we had, a lot of the same types of cliques and peer pressure type things that you're going through as well. I wanted to change tracks a little bit and get back to Jeff and ask you, Jeff, so one of the themes that we really like to explore is what have you learned as an adult that you most wish you'd learned as a kid? And how would that have changed your life?
It's a good question, a fundamental question, and I would say, especially maybe upper elementary, middle school, I wish I would have had a little more dialogue with adults about the path forward. Here's what to expect, here's what's going on, but also here's what you're good at, here's what your skills are, and here's where you need to improve. Because it was just kind of these rote academic courses, and then just chores and just normal 3D stuff, if you will. But that people sitting you down and actually being a guide or a mentor, which they have in villages in ages ago. So that would have been really important for someone to get that connection with someone. And in that, kind of going back to the theme I talked earlier, it just to kind of get a sense of who I am as a human being. Get some feedback that I've got a heart. I'm a kind person. I'm a good person. I'm athletic. I'm not good at academics. I'm a little awkward socially, but let me just reassure you that over time you'll develop those skills. It'll come, and everybody has that kind of a different developmental trajectory. So even for Kai, what he's saying now, 10 years from now, he'll look back and go, he'll have more wisdom. That comes from experience. But can we jumpstart that early on? That's what we need at that very young age, to kind of connect to your deeper heart, to connect to who you are, or a path or a direction, because there's just so much confusion and options down there. So I would have liked to get a clear sense of who I am that I have now, years later, but have with the help or facilitation of an adult or even an older sibling.
That's fantastic. I mean, one of the things that we like to do with our students is do an assessment to find what their genius zone is, what their sweet spot is in terms of their natural talents and passions and values. And it sounds like that would have been a helpful conversation to have with you back.
I'll add one more thing if I can. We do something called the inner weather report, and it's a quadrant of 4 different categories of emotions, whether it's really the uncomfortable, strong emotions like anger, frustration, or uncomfortable, more low-key energies, emotions like maybe depressed or sad or disappointed. And you swing over to the bottom right quadrant, peace, calm, and then enthusiasm and excitement. That's the kind of gives you a feeling. And we have emotions every day, but most of them are unconscious. Our emotions drive our attention. It's less the mind stuff, but it's more the emotions where because emotions are real drivers for our attention, as I said. So even to have a little bit of exposure to emotional intelligence, because that leads to self-awareness. If you take a kind of inventory every day of 10 emotions that you experienced and track them, and what are they connected to? Emotions are usually tied to a story of something that happened. Either you initiated or somebody initiated with you. A lot of times it's relationships. And that would be a little window into self-awareness. And then if I had the tools to be able to actually deal with some of those upsetting emotions like anxiety, which is numero uno among teenagers and preteens. It's just rampant out there. How do you deal with anxiety? Now, as I find in my dialogue with teenagers, and in fact, I was talking to one a couple months ago, and she was a senior at Palm Springs High School, about to go into college, and said, well, yes, I'm anxious, but we are kind of the anxious generation, and there isn't the stigma that there used to be. Yeah, we're anxious. And that awareness allows us to deal with it better. So that self-awareness, and then giving a voice to actually speak it or interaction with an adult or a peer, so important on that level. And that to me is a pathway into some level of self-discovery.
That's amazing. So if you had that higher level of emotional intelligence and that training early on, how do you think that would have affected your life?
I think I would have been less in a cloud and less confused, just walking around asleep, with certain things I like to do and certain things I like to avoid. That's about as much self-awareness as I had. But that would have allowed me to kind of face off some of my fears and maybe grow into some areas that I was scared to grow into, and give me a little more confidence to grow at a faster rate, if you will, and explore new things, like whether it's relationships or academic subjects or new hobbies. I was rather limited in my scope. I was just kind of rather narrow what I knew to do well. Like I loved sports. That was my thing. But there wasn't I didn't have a lot of game. I did have game, but it was dormant. And I would have liked somebody to point out, you have other qualities here you can magnify.
That's fascinating. So it sounds like that higher degree of emotional awareness would kind of expanded your comfort zone, so you could then explore things more easily, more quickly. Yeah. Oh, fantastic. And I love how this is so directly related to the work that you actually do with kids, and you are kind of in a way reaching back into the past, not your own past.
Yeah, what do you know about that? Yeah.
I know we're just about to wrap up, but I wanted to give you a chance, Kai, to sort of reach forward to us and tell us, given this conversation, is there anything that strikes you as being helpful that we could do, given the fact that you are in this more intense world of adolescence and growing up, and as your future unfolds, how can we better support you?
I think not just emotional awareness of yourself, that is definitely important, but along with that emotional awareness of yourself, you have to have emotional acceptance of yourself. Like, these are my emotions, these are my thoughts, but this is not who I am. I may have those emotions, I may have those thoughts, but it might come from what I am, what have I experienced, but who am I really? What am I good at? Who do I want to be? And then, but also, emotional understanding or emotional read, like how people can read the room, how you can just be welcoming to everyone else in the room. Like, My dad was such what you could say a beacon of light, and he passed when I was young, but um, uh, though he was just from what I've heard, he was such a loving, light person. He was gregarious, he was boisterous, he was anyways, but he welcomed everyone as if he were their best friend and he knew them forever. And he just felt like he belonged there, and he acted like he belonged there, and he acted confident. And therefore he was. He had the most amazing opportunities in life. He had the most great, like, he had a very beautiful life from what I've heard. And I haven't heard the half of it. And just, again, being aware of other people in the room, like, not just being aware of yourself. Because be aware of your friends, be aware of the people around you. Don't make, like, be aware if they're uncomfortable, etc. Because you have to set boundaries for yourself, but set boundaries for others too. You have to make, because your whole friend group is who influences you. So be aware of your friends. Be aware of who you spend time with. And on the mentor thing, I have a bunch of mentors. I have a lot. And so what I will say is, you need to find a reliable adult. Find one who you can trust. And that is one of the most important things, because a lot of things can go wrong on the darker side of that. But if you find the right person, you just click. And it doesn't need to just be one person. You can have a million mentors for a million different things. But just have one where you can just speak about it. Doesn't, hopefully, because maybe this is just me, but I'm very open about my life. I'm very open about how I feel. And I would hope that eventually the people even if there's kids, if there's adults, I hope that who's ever watching this can relate with me, because I haven't met another person who is so emotionally, like, they just put their life out on the table. And so I hope that what you can one day you can grow into that, and you can be aware of yourself and be aware of others, and then but the thing is, what I've also learned is to control what you say to others. Control, like, don't tell them all your problems instantly. You need to feel it out. Like, I've been I've been a person who just lays everything on the floor and just shows all my cards. So I've learned to tone that down. But just, I hope that there's just one person in your life where you can just be completely open and tell them, no matter what you've done, no matter what you're not proud of, no matter what you think you've done, what you've thought, just be completely open and be completely free. Free. Chainless. No secrets. At all. No matter how hard that is, I just hope you can grow into that.
That's a great note to end on, Kai. Thank you so much. And it kind of goes full circle back to what you were saying, Jeff, that you wish when you were a kid, you had somebody like that in your life to really, be able to have those direct conversations about, how life is and what you're good at and what you can be. So, well, my dream is to provide that for many, many kids. I'm so glad that you're doing that as well, Jeff, through your work. Many, many blessings and thanks to you for helping kids understand, get through such a challenging time with the powerful tools that you have. And Kai, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your light and wisdom. So appreciate it.